Welcome to the ChatterBox Podcast. Today we are going to talk about a topic in which I'm still not fully in now, but can see happening in the upcoming years, and is starting to happen today. The topic is about losing friends. Usually when I was in school back at home, the only way you lost a friend was if they moved to a different town or a different school. But now in college, we all moved to different schools and towns. It really put a testament to my friendships. I thought I had a lot of friendships in high school. I was friendly with a lot of people, but now zooming out, once I've graduated, I still am friendly with a lot of people from my high school, but the real friends, the ones that I still keep in touch with, is probably like 4 to 5. And I came from a team of 100 guys, so to zoom down to 4 to 5 guys showed me the truth. Even still, with those guys, it's going to be hard to keep the friendship. One of them is moving away. Another one has talks about moving. Soon we'll all be doing different things in different cities and different states. It makes me think about two sort of things. How life right now is a bubble. And the friends I have probably won't be the same as the friends I have in the future. The second thing is how truly alone I am with everything. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I think loneliness can technically be a good thing. I've noticed, especially being in college, I have a lot more moments where I'm alone. I was a twin growing up, all 18 years of my life at home. So the only alone time you really get is either when you're sleeping, which is not really alone time because I'm sleeping in the same room as my brother, so snoring, getting up, all that other stuff, he's still there. Or when you're in the bathroom, yeah. So alone time wasn't really a thing in my house, especially having an older sister and an older brother. But here at college, a lot more space for alone time. My roommate goes home on the weekends. I eat alone a lot because that's just a normal thing in college. Especially when I eat breakfast, I kind of get up early, and a lot of my friends get up later. So I'm not going to see them in the morning. And go to the library alone. And I'm focusing more on my goals, which is a good thing. But when you're focusing on your goals, you're more than likely going to be alone. So I feel like I'm at the point where I don't have a friend group that I fit in well with. Like in high school, it felt like I fit in perfect. I knew what my role was. I knew all the people in my group very well. I've known them for years. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but it always felt good, right? I had my purpose. I had my role. Here, it feels like I have a good group of friends, great friends, but some of their lifestyle choices, some of the things they do, some of the activities they do, why do I keep doing that? Some of the activities that they do, I don't necessarily align with. I played what I felt like a bigger role in my friend group at home, and now it feels like I'm just tagging along for the ride with my new friend group. It could be because I'm changing as a person, and this could be a good thing. I think when I went into college, I was not desperate, but so focused on trying to make friends that I didn't give myself space. All right, finally. I didn't give myself space to change as a person and be the person that I wanted to be, but was kind of suppressing in high school because I already set in stone the things I was doing in high school, and that didn't allot me enough time to then shift and focus on the other goals that I had. And since I was so laser focused on making friends at the beginning of college, it was the same person. It was the same high school Jason. And so I made a similar high school Jason adjacent friends. And so that's not a bad thing. They're great guys. But since I've spent so much time with them, I feel kind of not an obligation, but a pull towards say they're playing ping pong like we just did. We played some ping pong. Or went to the game room, played some pool, we played some ping pong. And they're like, oh, we're in game room. And they text in the group chat. When I'm tired or bored, I feel, oh, let me go and play some ping pong with them. That should be fun. That will be fun. Right. And so because of that, I kind of, because of me playing ping pong, because of having that friend group established, right? This is what I'm trying to get at. Because I have that friend group established, and they text the group chat, and they're doing things that old me would have done. A heartbeat, I would have gone down there. But I'm trying to move away from that. But it's kind of hard because there's still that part of me that wants to do it and gives in and does it. And I'm trying to spend less time doing that. Like, I know it's important. I want to have the college experience. I want to do the college things while I'm here. I don't want to regret just putting my head down, doing a bunch of work, and then not enjoying certain moments when I have them. But I also don't want to focus only on that short-term gratification, what they call it. But I don't like saying that because it's like kind of cliche now because it's said a lot, short-term gratification versus long-term gratification. But I don't want to do too much of that and then regret not spending enough time on my goals, because that's kind of how I felt in high school a little bit. So part of me just wants to tear away from my friend group and do my thing. Part of me gives in and appreciates hanging out with them. I'm not sure if that part is the old version of me who has that as a habit, or if it is a part of me I should listen to and not suppress. I feel like this influx of self-help information says to go all in. So I want to, and I am doing so. I'm okay with losing friends. And maybe I've just got to be patient, but I just wanted to share the thought that I'm having right now. I understand I got to be patient. I've never been good with that. So I think a lot in the meantime of achieving the end goal. And it's a lot of back and forth and probably unnecessary thinking. But I can't stop it. It's just who I am. Like, it's the reason why I can't sleep sometimes at night, or most nights. I'm always thinking. So I decided to let me make it constructive. Let me think through these thoughts, actually write them down and get to what the real root is, right? And that's why I also started this podcast. Get to the root of all these thoughts that I've had and been having and will continue to have while I go through this journey of the goals that I have. So I'm learning to get used to being alone. And maybe it's not such a bad thing, but it's a new thing, something different that I'm still trying to figure out how to get used to and how to incorporate, both chasing after my goals while also taking the opportunity while I'm here to enjoy parts of college that is the college experience. And it's frozen. Okay, there we go. We're back. And it's, I'm trying to remember, because it's hard to, I don't know. I'm trying to think about this because there's parts where I really enjoy hanging out with my friends, and then there's times where I was like, oh, I shouldn't have gone to hang out with them. Like, this wasn't worth it. And I know having friends are important. Like, in the case of when I was making my book, right? Or while I am making my book, I've had friends along the way who have helped me in the writing process and editing, which I'm forever grateful for. And to me, that's really fun because we're doing something that's a goal of mine, and we're doing it together, and we get to talk about it and collaborate about it. And so there's a purpose to hanging out. Whereas there's a lot of purposeless hangouts in college, and I'm such a purpose-driven person, so it's hard for me to do the purposeless stuff a lot because I get agitated after a while if I'm just doing that. If I'm sick, all bets are off. I'll watch a bunch of Netflix, whatever. Injured, I know when to take rest when I'm injured. I'm not trying to go I'm not psychotic, but if I feel good, if I have energy, I don't like doing the purposeless stuff. I think often when I was in high school or younger, I was insecure and wanted to be wanted. I don't know why. If I really think about it, I'm not sure why. Maybe it was because being younger in a family of four, so maybe I felt like, because it doesn't feel like I didn't get enough attention looking back, but maybe some part of me did. And so when I was in a friend group and we were hanging out, I didn't want it to end because it was fun. I was enjoying it. We were playing, especially when I was younger. We'd play a lot outside. My mom would just be like, "Go outside." I'd be like, "To do what?" She's like, "You guys, there's a bunch of you, figure it out." So we would figure it out, and we spent a lot of time playing, a lot of time doing sports, and a lot of time just messing around outside and hanging out. And when I am with my friends, like I said, I don't want it to end. And that would usually end up with me trying to make it last too long or staying too long. But then I started to have these goals. And so when I would do it, it was almost like I was harming myself because then afterwards I'd be dissatisfied with the way I spent my time. And that became like a habit. Though the way I knew how to function, so that makes no sense. That became a habit. But now I don't really, or I'm getting rid of that part of me that's a little bit more, I guess you can say, insecure. Especially with spending more time alone and just working and knowing what type of person I actually am. But there's still that part of me that's in there. And when I'm in college, I sometimes find myself still doing this. But I'm trying to learn when to leave when you want to leave, when to hang out when you want to hang out, when to say no, when to not let people just disrespect you. And I'm learning. I'm learning how to navigate that without being disrespectful to them as well. I guess growing up with older brother, older sister, and a twin brother, I got very good at the snapbacks, the insults and coming up with an insult back at someone. But that's not the solution to things. That's just fighting fire with fire. That's not going to win battle. Sometimes you got to learn when to take it. And sometimes you got to learn when to give it. I'm struggling with that, definitely. I was always up for the fight, always up for the argument. But I'm learning in college that sometimes that's not the best idea. Sometimes it's better to bite your tongue and then confront the issue once you're more level. Not when you're emotional, when you're angry or upset. And figuring that balance out has been an interesting journey for me. And along the lines of the friendship thing, how do you know when to let go? Which friends to let go of? How do you know which friends to keep? How do you let go of a friend that you don't want to be a friend anymore because they don't treat you well? These are questions that I've had, and it's a hard thing to navigate, especially if they're in your friend group, especially if you've been friends with them for months or years, and you feel a certain attachment, a certain care for them, but you also are getting a lot of hate from them, getting a lot of negativity from them. Maybe they don't appreciate your goals or don't appreciate your boundaries when you say you don't want to do certain things, or when you say they don't respect your lifestyle choices. How do you know when it's enough is enough? When you're like, okay, this person's just a hater, this person's not a friend, they're actually just a negative to my life, they're not a positive, they're not adding, they're taking away my energy, taking away my confidence, they're making me feel more insecure, more doubtful about myself, all things that you don't want. Doubt is a good thing. Reasonable doubt is a good thing, right? Reasonable doubt is a good thing, but having someone that adds on to your doubt, that makes you think that you're not going to make it, that's not something you want. That's not something that I want. That's not something that you should want. And so, how do you know when enough is enough? How do you know when a person is not good for you, not a friend? So I ask these questions because I think being friends with a bunch of different people who are different from you is important, right? They can push you out of your comfort zone and teach you things that you never would have learned without them. So just because they're not like me doesn't mean I have to defriend them. But it doesn't mean that I will possibly spend less time with them, right? It means I'll spend less time with them. Like with my friends now, I think I'm spending less time with them than I did with my friends at high school. Actually, I definitely am. Sometimes I'm not. I'm spending more time with them. Sometimes it feels like I'm spending less. And if I think about it really deep, I always wanted to connect with people on a deeper level, right? I always want to connect with people and get to know more about them, tell them more about myself, and get a big connection. Especially when I was trying to run for or trying to become a captain or a member of the track team and there'd be a new year of kids that came in, I would try to get to know them. I would try to not just be like, oh, hi, and just know their name, right? I would want to know things about, like, oh, you did basketball. You like playing basketball, or this is your favorite sports team, or you have a brother and a sister, or you're interested in this, you're interested in that. Not just and that's just a name. And if I am nice to them, they'll vote for me. I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to be friends with them. But also, I have goals now, and I'm focusing more on them now than I did in high school. And with that, I have to spend a lot more time alone. Theme of the podcast: spending more time alone, figuring out what friends to keep, what friends to not have that are friends. And with that, it's contradictory. It's two things contradictory. I want to have a deep connection with people, and I also want to achieve these goals. And to achieve these goals, I have to be alone. But if I'm alone, I can't make deep connections with people. I can't hang out with my friends as much. So it's a sacrifice I am now making, right? Not hanging out with these people. It means I'm not going to have as deep of a connection with them, but I might have more success with my goals. So what do I want? And that's a great question. What do I want? I think in high school, I spent so much time focusing on building those friendships, on developing my skills as a leader so that I can become captain. That was a big focus. Get captain. Get good at track. That didn't happen. But I focused on it. I tried to get good at it. I put a lot of dedication towards it. I learned a lot about shin splits. I learned a lot about track running in general, different shoes. So the perfect combination was something I had in high school, which is to have people that, or to have a thing where, like track, where we all had a common interest. We were all doing track. Sure, we had external interests that were different. We all had a common interest. And we'd all be doing a thing. We'd all be working towards a goal for a specific period of time. Now I have the book. I'm working with my friends. But even still, a lot of that work is alone. A lot of that's me in the library editing alone. A lot of my goals are me going to the gym alone. Me eating alone in the morning because my friends are sleeping. Me doing this podcast alone in my room because, well, they're out partying or doing some bullshit that I don't want to do. And, in college, I try to make a bunch of friends, but they all have different interests, and that's okay. That's cool. That's something I've learned something from them. But it means I'm now, instead of doing that 2-for-1 deal, which was track, I now have to figure out how to spend time with friends while also focusing on my goals. And a lot of times spending time with friends gets sacrificed for myself. And people can see that as selfish, but at the end of the day, if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm focusing only on other people, then it's not going to end out well for me. And at the end of the day, I am selfish. Everybody's selfish because they're doing things for themselves. They're living with themselves. That's the only person they're going to spend the most time with. And so I think it's suppressive to call someone selfish. Now, if they're not kind, if they're not respectful, people often frame that as selfish. But I think there's different words for it. I don't think selfish is a bad thing. I think there's bad things that people then brand as selfish. And I think that's ignorant, right? Because we've got all these vast language of words that we can use to describe that. That's not using a word that makes people think that caring for themselves is a bad thing. Even thinking about this episode seemed a little uncomfortable for me to release because I know some of my friends might be listening or will eventually find my videos and listen and might be offended or hurt by some of the things that I have to say in here. But I'm starting to learn that I should stop trying to appease everyone else, especially if it means that I end up getting the short end of the stick all the time. And I've always been a people pleaser, especially with my friends, when it comes down to what's important. A lot of times I joke around. A lot of times I can poke fun of people or throw out, not insults, but it could be on the aggressive side because that was my default, right? Come up with older brother, older sister, twin brother. Insults get thrown around a lot. So I became very good at the confrontation, the jab backs. And I learned in college that that's not necessarily the best solution to everything. That's not necessarily the outcome you want. And so I'm getting better at that. I'm learning. But with that comes like a new navigating a new territory. I'm going to bite my tongue when I'm too emotional and realizing that maybe if I just waited out a day, right, I can come back to what annoyed me and address it in a more calm and level-headed way. So that was something new I learned from college. And I'm still on that balance. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think because I'm growing, because I'm changing, friends that I did make, I'm starting to slowly drift away from them. And not in a bad way. They're great people. But I just think that with the things that I want to do, it's going to require less time hanging out with them. And with that, the more that I focus on my goals, the more that I do that, I become more of a changed person. And with that, become more different from them. And so it keeps creating this gap. And I keep wanting to jump across, but eventually it's going to be too big of a gap where I can't cross again, where it'll just feel uncomfortable or it won't make sense. So I want to enjoy it now while I can still cross, because I do want friends. I don't want to just be isolated all the time. A lot of the self-help advice is like, oh, lonely chapter. You got to put your head down and work, have no progress, work. And I want to do that. I want to work. I want to put in the work and do it. And I am putting in the work. But I also want to spend time with friends. And I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. I don't know if that's a good choice or not. And sometimes I feel even guilty for doing it. I don't know if it's the voice in my head that's saying it's bad, or if I actually just spend too much time hanging out with them. But the general consensus I've found with people that are successful is that they just worked, and that was the story they told. And I know it's a good thing, and I am working a lot more than some of these other people I'm hanging out with. And maybe that's not the people I should be comparing myself to if I really want to achieve at a high level. Maybe because I'm hanging out with them, I think I'm working hard. But if I hung out with different people, I'd realize I'm not working that hard at all. So it's still something I'm trying to figure out. I think it's going to be hard to find friends, especially in college, that have similar goals to me, who are trying to do the same things as I am, because they're so focused on what high school Jason would have been focused on, which is joining all these clubs, doing track, doing a sports thing, trying to have a good resume that fits in the mold. instead of doing things that won't be on the resume for a while, but once on it will help me stand out because it's so different from everybody else. Like writing a book. I get published. There's not many people that could say they have done that in college. Or like starting a podcast and actually consistently working. Like a lot of people say that, oh, I'm going to start one, maybe start it, do a couple episodes and quit. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible. Like, for example, this podcast, straight up, half of it cut off. Like someone tried to FaceTime me, didn't check the audio, recorded the next 15 minutes, and half of it didn't work. Now, I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. But I said, screw it. I ended the FaceTime call after I called him because he made me realize that during the FaceTime call. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to go and record this second half and talk about friendship again. And I did that because I made a rule and I made a goal to post one podcast a week. And if I gave up now after this small little obstacle, when I actually have bigger obstacles, I'm more easily going to quit. And I didn't want to quit. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to people. I want to have more guests on. That's my goal. That's something I said in the second half that got deleted, so I'm going to say it again. I want to have more guests on. I want to shift more towards this being more of a guest interview type podcast. I'm going to try to have a friend on next week if possible, and then start expanding and not have it just be my friends. Have it be other people. Have it be people that I'm interested in, people that inspire me, people that are writing books, people that are doing incredible things that I want to know more about and know how they got there. That's been something I've always been interested in. I've read a bunch of memoirs. I've watched a bunch of documentaries. I've probably watched the John Mayer documentary like 3 times. I've watched the Wham one like twice. That's on Netflix. I've read Will Smith's book. I've read Trevor Noah's book. I've read Matthew McConaughey's book. I've read Steve Jobs' book. I'm interested in memoirs. I'm interested in how people get successful. I'm interested in my journey to becoming successful and achieving goals I want to do. And it's just an area of curiosity that I have. And I'm interested in learning a bunch of things. That's why I like watching podcasts. That's why I wanted to create one. Because when I watch these podcasts, questions formulate in my mind that I'd want to ask these people and that don't necessarily get asked. And I want to have the opportunity to do that with these people that I'm interested in. So I'm gonna try to make this more of like who really inspires me as a podcast space is like a Theo Vaughn, because he started off with these solo podcasts just talking about his week, and then he expanded from there, and now he's got an incredible podcast where he mostly interviews people and sometimes has solo podcasts, and that's kind of how I want to roll. I want it to be focused more on guest podcasts, but then sometimes I do solo, and I think for the time being it might be more solo based than interview based because it's harder to get interviews, especially at a smaller channel, at a smaller audience. But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna get tripod. I'm gonna get lighting. I'm gonna make this look more professional. I'm gonna interview people, and we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna see what happens. And what I'm not gonna do is if I have an obstacle like happened today, I'm not just gonna quit and give up because that's the easy option, because that's a convenient option. I could have just posted a 15-minute podcast and then put a black box that says "See you next week." Instead, I decided to press re-record and record another whole, probably longer period of a podcast for you guys, even if there's only 2 viewers watching, even if it's just one of my friends that decided to play it while he's doing homework. I appreciate you if you're watching this. Thank you. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And it's just gonna keep getting better. And I'm gonna keep working on it. I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna get guests. I'm gonna get next. I love English because I keep choking on the words. That's crazy. I'm gonna get guests for next week, and I'm gonna try to get guests for the week after that, and keep having it be guests. Now, if I can't get one, I'll do a solo podcast. But for the time being, that's gonna be my focus. So thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you have. Thanks for listening, especially at these earlier podcasts where I'm not as good at doing it. And I will see you next week.